Hello and welcome to 6th part. Today I'm gonna continue the story What If Deku Ate the Devil Fruit Part 2. If you enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
As Toshinori left the exam recording room for the last time, he was happily humming. Everyone was graded on both their theoretical and practical work, so grades should be sent out soon. Shota was coming out of his own recording when he saw him. He had just finished recording for his successor in hero mode. Aizawa-kun, Toshinori said, "Did you just finish yours?" "Yay," said Shota. Hitoshi Shinso did well on the theoretical exam, but on the practical, even with the added rescue points, he only got 8 villain points and 20 rescue points, 28 points in total. Even if he did disband an argument, it didn't get him much from the panel of 7 judges. "Still, he did do quite well with a quirk like his," said Toshinori. "But being honest, you were in better physical condition and better prepared when you took your examination, even if it wasn't fighting robots like in the past. Young Shinso could have at least bought a staff or baton to fight with." Shota said in a low voice as he left, "Well, I'll help him with that." Suddenly, he stopped. The disgust on his face showed that he didn't want to do what he was planning to do next. Shota clenched his teeth and said, "All Might, I need a favor from you. Please help me plan a workout schedule to push Shinsho's body as much as possible." Even though Shota thought he could make one, he knew All Might was better at it because of how he was built and how much experience he had. "Ha ha ha, don't worry, I was expecting such a request. Luckily, I've already prepared it for you." Toshinori couldn't help but laugh and change into his All Might form. He showed Shota a stack of papers that he had taken out of somewhere with a fuss. "Behold, my self-designed 45-day workout plan, the Go the Distance, Get into Heroics, American Dream plan." Shota carefully took the papers and quickly looked through them. He saw that All Might had carefully thought out the best way to do everything, including exercise, diet, sleep, and even time to use weapons if needed. "Why is it weaponry time?" Shota asked with interest. "Not to be mean, but young Shinso doesn't seem to have the genetics for a large build, even with my plans. Shinso can easily detain a villain with his quirk, but he doesn't have the means to hold him for long. Most likely a small hit will wake up his captures, meaning they could run away before he has the chance to completely subdue them. But with a weapon, say like your cloth, he could detain enemies long enough to transfer them to the authorities." Shota said, "Makes sense, because he had already thought about it. It was just to see if All Might agreed." All Might waved goodbye as he ran off into the distance. As long as he sticks to this schedule, he should have no trouble getting into that reserve spot. "Ah well, I have to go." Shota moaned as we walked away, "I don't know how I'll handle it when he comes to teach here." After a few days while Izuku was working out on the machine, Inko walked in the room out of the blue. Inko quickly held out a letter with the clear UA on it and said, "Izuku, it's here, a picture on it." Izuku quickly grabbed the letter and was so excited that he was almost shaking. Inko quickly went back to the kitchen to wait for the news while giving him space. Izuku nervously looked at the envelope before finally ripping off the sticker and flipping it open to find a small round device inside. He quickly put it on his desk and leaned back in his chair as the device turned on and projected a video from inside it. "This is a projection," All Might said as a greeting, which caught Izuku off guard. Izuku thought to himself, "All Might? Isn't this a letter from UA? Haha. You may be wondering why I'm here," said All Might. "Well, the reason I have been staying here lately is because I will be teaching at UA." Suddenly, a hand showed up in the bottom left corner of the screen and waved at All Might, telling him to move faster. "What? Get to the point. Whatever needs to be said can be said later." "HMPH, fine," All Might said. "For your written portion, you aced it. You achieved the highest score, along with one other examinee. An impressive score, but that alone does not guarantee your entrance. As for the practical, you achieved 62 points, until you decided to face that trap villain. You were warned that doing so would result in losing 75% of your current points, making your points docked to 15 points only. With such a value, I'm afraid your entry to UA High's heroic course would be denied." Izuku stopped moving when he heard that, and he looked down in sadness before he saw a picture of the group that had been taken. Kids in the bottom row, Momo, Ochako, and Itsuka, were smiling. Kids in the top row, Izuku and Tenya, were standing tall and proud. He thought about what they had said and turned back to the projection. If it wasn't for the fact that you were all tricked into thinking that, if you recall, Present Mike merely said, might, when he was talking about the punishment. It was done to test your spirit as a hero and to face the odds. There was no penalty in facing the giant foe villain. The villain was worth 0 points. Nothing more, nothing less. That means your villain points stay at 62 points. Which is easily more than enough to get in. But wait, there's more than that. Behold, I am also an entertainer. Let's watch this video. The cameraman said as All Might quickly pointed to another TV while posing. All Might clicked a button, and the side screen grew to cover a quarter of the projection. All Might was still in the screen. Inside the screen, Ochako, Tenya, and Itsuka were all coming in through what looked like the teacher's lounge. Someone or something asked Izuku, wait, what are they doing there? Excuse me, Ochako said when everyone was standing in front of Present Mike. These three came straight to the staff room. Why did they come? Well, let's find out. Do you remember the boy with curly hair and freckles? He's kind of tall, but a little shorter than him, Ochako asked Tenya. In fact, we want to talk about the student who fought the 0-point fake bad guy at Battlesite B while wearing a green tracksuit, Tenya said, chopping his right arm. He spoke up and said, Examinee 2234, his name is Izuku, if that helps. Yes, him, Deku, Ochako said with a fierce look on her face. Would it be possible to give him my points? Izuku blinked in shock and awe as Ochako spoke on. Deku was the coolest and strongest person out there, I think. No, I know that he had the most points on our exam site. He had the best chance of getting in. Yet he willingly gave up most of his points to save me and a bunch of other ungrateful jerks. He saved my life. Tenya spoke up, take my points as well. Don't take all of hers. Take some of mine to supplement it. I had the power to save others, and maybe even prevent him from losing his points if I had acted. But instead, I selfishly only thought about myself, thinking about my points and chances of getting into UA. Yet not only was he able to do something, but he also did so without hesitation. My own cowardice cost him his chance, something I cannot live with myself. As Izuku hid his face in tears, All Might stopped the video and said, even though you have a powerful quirk, it was your actions that moved people. Your kind and selfless actions have touched their hearts deeply and inspired them to act. As the video went on, Ochako and Tenya both bowed to present Mike. Please, ask them both, there's nobody else more worthy who deserves to accept it into UA than him. Mike had to fight the urge to smile before he asked Itsuka, and you? Izuku has always been selfless, Itsuka said, smiling. Despite the fact it could hurt him physically or mentally, he has always leapt in to save others, even if it meant costing him his chance and breaking his promise to me. I'm sure Izuku would feel guilty if he got in but cost you 2 your chances. So if it's possible, take some of my points as well. If we split between 3 of us, I'm sure we can give him enough points while getting in. Present Mike couldn't help but smile big when he saw Itsuka bow too. Indeed, a person with your heart is very rare. To be born with such a golden heart. Never forget that. In addition, this exam was not solely based on just villain points. Present Mike then told them to raise their heads and said, sorry, but even if you all ask, we can't just give your points to him. Present Mike put out his hand to stop the 3 of them from arguing, which let him say, plus, there's no need for it anyways. Not with his talent and heart to inspire. Trust me, I know he'll definitely pass. All Might calmly asked as the side screen shrunk and the camera slowly panned back to his face. How could a hero course turn down people who save others and do the right thing? Call it lip service. Call it cheesy? Think what you want, but in this job, you have to risk your life to do those things. That's why there are rescue points. 7 of them, given by a panel of the harshest judges. It's the other basic ability we look at here. Izuku had to thank Momo because her guess was right on the money. Izuku Midoriya. Villain points, 62, rescue points, 70. For a total of 132 points. Don't think the judges didn't notice your actions before the giant foe villain. They were quite impressed with how you would aid others, preventing them from being in danger. The giant villain just solidified their judgment about you. For the first time since UA has opened, You are the only applicant that has managed to achieve full rescue points. Not only that, but you shattered the previous highest records by a whopping 32 points, which was mine by the way. The camera panned back to All Might's back as he slowly turned around to face the camera in an epic way. Izuku could hardly hold back the tears that were running down his cheeks. Come, young Midoriya. This is just the beginning of your journey. You've shown everyone what you're made of, and you went plus ultra. This is your hero academia. He waved his hand at the camera. Izuku tried to wipe away his tears, but all he could do was nod his head. When he was finally done, he took the recorded projection to the kitchen to tell his mother, Inko, the news. Most of the applicants got a letter from Nezu introducing himself and showing their scores for the theoretical and practical tests. This was followed by a final statement telling them if they were accepted into the course they were applying for or even if they were allowed to take the general studies course. The recording that was used for all applicants was pretty much the same. Not many students got a different recording if they did something that made them stand out. For example, because they were willing to give up their points for Izuku, Ochako, Tenya, and Itsuka all got different recordings from the vast majority. Hadoshi Shinso was another student who got a different recording. Shinso stared at the letter from the USA that was addressed to him. His mother pushed him several times before he finally got the courage to open the letter by himself in his room. Nezu or All Might were not shown by the recorded projection. Instead, Aizawa Shota was seen. Hey, I bet you're interested in your results, and I bet you're wondering who the hell this guy is, Shota said in a rather slack voice. When that question was asked, Shinso couldn't help but nod. Well, I'm one of the teachers at UA High, said Shota. Usually the principal, Nezu, does this crap, but I decided to do yours. Your theoretical exam was good. In your practical, you earned 8 villain points, which should be obvious that isn't enough to even be considered. When Shinso heard this, he could only clench his teeth. It wasn't fair. His quirk wasn't right for this test and wasn't even flashy enough. People automatically thought he would turn bad because of his quirk, brainwash. But then I saw you act after the exam, said Shota, making him happy. Nice job diffusing that potential fight. I was going to intervene, but you stopped it first without even throwing a punch. Not many people can do so, since a lot of people are so gung-ho about violence. During the exam and after, there were also rescue points to consider. Unfortunately, even with your act, you only earned 20 rescue points from the judges, giving you a total of 28 points. Not enough to be considered. Shinso's head fell back down in sadness. However, I am quite curious about your quirk, brainwash, said Shota. Such a potentially useful quirk wouldn't have revealed itself in UA's practical exam, especially since we placed the rule that you can't interfere with other students. It's only because I saw you use it to stop the fight did I investigate you a little closer. So thus, using my power and influence as a teacher, you're in a rather curious spot. Shinso slowly looked up at the projection again, shocked. He had tears and a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Nezu has agreed to give you a reserve ranking spot in the heroics course, yawned Shota. You'll be placed in the general studies class, but when it comes to specific heroic course events, you'll be going with them. However, there is a condition to this spot. Within the next 2 months, you'll have to undergo hellish physical training. As of right now, you can't compare to those who have been training with their quirks and/or physical aptitude, whose ability have been shown to be able to combat the robots. There was even a girl whose quirk is just invisibility, and yet she showed enough physical strength and cunning to gain entry to the course, meaning she's physically stronger than you. Aizawa then slowly pushed his bangs out of his eyes and smiled crazy at the camera. His eyes also had a crazy gleam in them. If you want to prove yourself, then come to Mustafa Local Park. You should be getting this message on March 5th, so get over here on the 6th at 7 in the morning sharp. I know you live somewhere close there, and I'm going to train your ass. If you don't show up, I'm going to assume you don't want this chance. This is your chance to show your plus ultra. As Shinso agreed and nodded, he couldn't help but try to hold back his tears. He was already making plans to do so. The rude skinhead Izuku had saved during the entrance exam said, "Okay, my letter came." He quickly opened it, and the projection showed a message from Nezu that had been recorded. It was the same recording that everyone else had seen. But this changed when Nezu put a new recording on top of the old one because he wanted to say something. As you can tell, despite your rather average score in the theoretical, you achieved 38 villain points. A rather decent score. Not too bad, if I do say so myself, the skinhead bragged as he waited for Nezu to let him in. However, villain points were not the only thing we were looking for. We were also careful to pay attention to rescue points. Now then, let me show you an interesting video, Nezu said as he drank his tea. On the video, he was seen doing small things to distract other examinees, like gasping and pointing to nothing, so they couldn't see him destroy the bad guy bots. It was clear that someone was already fighting a bad guy bot in another scene, and he was about to destroy it. He had been hiding behind some broken things, ready for that moment. However, because these things were more on the borderline of getting in the way of other examinees, he wasn't suspended right away. He was shown to be in a fetal position by another. Finally, there was a recording of him saying bad things about Izuku's rescue. And so, Nezu said as the video ended, our panel of judges have agreed to a unanimous decision. Orkaba Ka, 38 villain points and minus 58 rescue points. Yes, there have been negative points given before, but nothing like yours. That gives you a total of minus 20 points. For the first time in UA's history, you are the only one examinee to receive a negative score in your total. Congratulations on such an achievement, and if it wasn't obvious, your application has been rejected completely. You won't even be accepted to any of our other courses here. We will not send a copy of this video to other schools offering heroic courses as we do not want to hinder your chances with them, as much as I would love to do so. Hopefully, this will teach you humility. Goodbye and try again at another school. When the video was over, the skinhead could only stare, then he curled up in a ball and cried. Mom. The mouse was mean to me. At 8 p.m. that same night, Toshinori Yagi was standing at Dagobah Beach, enjoying the view of the stars while the sound of the ocean waves calmed him down. As they talked about the top 10 scores in the staff meeting, his thoughts went back to that time. Small flashback. One staff member said, "Damn, first place this year rocked. 62 points and a whopping 70 rescue points. That's something that has never been given full points." There was a list of the top 10 scores in front of all of them. First, Izuku Midoriya, 62 bad guy, 70 good guy. Second, Tenya Iida, 52 bad guys and 30 good guys. Third, Katsuki Bakugo, 77 bad guys, 0 good guys. Fourth, Itsuka Kendo, 25 bad guys, 50 good guys. Fifth, Eijiro Kirishima, 39 bad guys, 35 good guys. Sixth, Ochako Uraraka, 28 bad guys, 45 good guys. Seventh, Abara Shiozaki, 36 bad guys, 32 good guys. Eighth, Tetsutsu, 49 bad guys, 10 good guys. Ninth, Fumikage Tokiyami, 47 bad guys, 10 good guys. 10th, Yosetsu Awase, 50 bad guys, 6 good guys. Katsuki Bakugo, who came in third, is a tough one. Tenya Iida's rescue points added at the last minute would have put him in second place for sure. 77 points, all from bad guys. So what when the fake bad guy showed up? He went even faster and destroyed all the other robots while everyone was running, piped in another. Toshinori just smirked and sat in the back, resisting the urge to change into his successor and brag about him. Flashback is over. Mr. Yagi greeted Izuku when he got to the beach, knowing that he shouldn't say who he was. "Hi there, Midoriya," greeted Toshinori. "I see you got my text message. Good job on passing. Just so you know, I had nothing to do with how the decision was made. I did not want to seem like I was picking favorites, and you seemed like the type of person who would think that would be cheating." "Thanks for being worried," Izuku said with a bow. "So you're going to teach at UA? It makes sense that you spend so much time in this prefecture since your agency is in Roppongi, Minato." "Yes, I was offered a job there while they were looking for a replacement," Toshinori agreed. "But you made that job so much easier for me. In its place, I will lead the newest group of heroes while also helping you get a better handle on One for All." "Thank you very much." Izuku bowed again. He could use 100% of it right now, but he couldn't control it well. He could use it more than once, but every time he did, he would stumble as if he were overextending a punch. All Might had shown that such a big opening could be fatal when they sparred before. Layering One for all over his body didn't help with using 100% either. He still stumbled. 60% was fine for mobility, but for fighting, he was best at using 50% for now. Remember that? Izuku asked. My mom wants me to invite you to dinner. She wants to thank you for helping me learn. Well, if it's an honest request, Toshinori said before turning into All Might, then I have no reason to say no to the lady's request. Holy crap, it's All Might, a guy and his girlfriend said. No way. How long did he stay here? The girl asked. Oh no, Midoriya, run away. Carolina Dash, yelled All Might as he ran off. Izuku got on the computer 2 days later, put on the headset, and made a video chat room while he waited. A few seconds later, 3 windows appeared on his screen. Yeah. The girl waved from next to her. With his right arm in a chop motion, Tenya said, hello. We're here, greeted Momo and Ochako at the same screen. Ochako wasn't at home with a computer yet, so she was with Momo, who lived closer. Ochako had to get used to the fact that Momo lived in a mansion or something similar for a minute before she could relax. Momo had connected the video camera to a big TV so they didn't have to squish together. There was also an easy-to-use microphone that picked up their voices. Okay, so you all pass? Izuku asked in a calm voice as he leaned back in his chair. Yes, they all said, you too, right? Yay, Izuku said with a smirk that seemed a bit evil. You all knew about the rescue points from Present Mic, right? Hee hee. What made you think of that? Mama looked at them with interest as Ochako and the others whistled. A video clip that Izuku had been able to grab from the projector was all he did to show them. Wah. The word made Itsuka blush as she put her hands over her face and made them bigger to fit. Tenya coughed to the side while putting his glasses on. Ochako was having the worst time. She started to stutter and float away from the couch she was sitting on. She quickly let go of it because she felt like she was going to throw up, but her face was still red. Momo said, I'm surprised they showed you that video. Isn't that kind of private? Izuku's nervousness made him sweat. Eee, he said, whose name was on your projection? Principal Nezu, they all said. Deku-kun, who did you see on your screen? Ochako changed the subject and asked. Well, Izuku said nervously, it was All Might, but don't tell anyone. All Might, yelled everyone, and Izuku could barely hear because the speech bubble went right through his ears. Why did you get All Might for yours? Itsuka yelled. Well, it could be because I came in first place in the whole thing? Wow, you came in first. I asked Ochako. How many points? I got 28 save points and 45 villain points. They helped me out a lot for some reason. Maybe because you gave your points to help Izuku, Itsuka said. I got 25 villain points and 50 rescue points. I helped a lot of people with their tests, and I think they gave me a little extra. 52 villain, 30 rescue, Tenya said. But I don't think I deserve those rescue points. Ochako was the first person to offer to give up her points without any doubt. I also did, but I still can't forgive myself for being slow to do so during the exam. Don't worry, Momo said. Most people would rather run away than fight. That's why we're getting ready to be heroes. Izuku, what did you get? 62 villain points and 70 rescue points, Izuku said. Everyone looked at him and blinked. That's 132 points, Momo exclaimed. Izuku, you broke the old record for the most points by 32. That score was too high for even All Might. Wow, go Izuku, Itsuka teased with a sweet laugh. Yes, you do deserve it, Tenya was praised. That night, they were going to get together to celebrate their acceptance letters again. Tenya had already booked a restaurant and was going to pay for everyone. Oh, Itsuka-chan. Did you still want to meet with Grandmaster Rakai? Would she be glad to see you again? Asked Izuku. That sounds good, Itsuka agreed. Let's go together. I really want to come. Ochako cheered. Of course, a place where you learned how to fight and use your quirk would be very interesting, Tenya said. Mama smiled and said, it would be nice to see more of the city. Okay, let's get together this Friday. Thursday is the last day of school for me. He cheered. Izuku, is everyone okay with this? Yes. Cheered everyone. Inside Itsuka, she was grumpy because she wanted to be with Izuku only when they went to meet Rakai. It would be like going on a date. But she couldn't say no to the other three since they were asking her to be with them. When Friday came around, Izuku was about to run outside to meet up with the others before going to the dojo when he saw someone sitting in front of his door. Bakugo? Izuku blinked, wondering if he could see right now. Katsuki told Deku, "Fight me right now." "This way?" Izuku asked with a raised eyebrow, "In front of my house?" "No way. Get your behind out and follow me to the park," yelled Katsuki. "That's where we can have our fight." Izuku let out a grumpy sigh and shut the door behind him. "Bakugo, I'm going to meet up with some friends," he said. "Could we do this later?" As Katsuki turned around, he yelled, "Fuck no. We're throwing down right here, right now. You messed up my big plan to be the first and only student from Aldera Junior High to go to college. Now we'll decide who's the best." Katsuki turned around and saw Izuku jump off the 5th-story balcony of the building. He quickly leaned over the edge to see Izuku land safely on the ground and then ran off. "Deku, come back here," Katsuki yelled as he jumped off the balcony and ran after Izuku, using his explosions to control his fall to the ground. Momo, Okako, Itsuka, and Tenya were waiting at the bottom of the stairs that led to the temple. They didn't know where Izuku was. Momo used the binoculars she made to say, "Hey, I see him, and he's being chased by someone else." "Is he being harmed?" Tenya gasped. "We need to help him." "Wait, Yaoyorozu-san, is the person chasing him have blonde spiky hair, and angry face, and constantly yelling, 'Die'?" he asked Itsuka. "Die? Yes, Kendo-san, that's exactly what he means," Momo said through his sweat. The beast called Itsuka growled, "That's Katsuki Bakugo. What does he want now?" "Do they have a history together?" Ochako asked. "Bakugo was still is Izuku's main bully," Itsuka said. "You'd think the butt whooping he got when he tried to come into the dojo and saving his life would make him tone it down, but no. Izuku claims he has, but he sometimes believes in the best of people a little too much." After that, she said in a softer voice, "But that's what makes him unique." Izuku showed up before anyone could tell her she was wrong. He sighed and stopped. "Sorry, but he insists on coming," he said. Katsuki yelled as he stopped, "Deku, stop running away from me, you faggot." "Persistent much?" Rikai asked, which caught everyone off guard. "Whoa, when are you coming here, and how long have you been here?" Ochako yelled. "About the time you guys heard this boy yelling, 'Die', Rikai said. "I could hear him from all the way up from my dojo, so I decided to come down to see what was going on. He was screaming it for a good while." And Tenya asked, "Wait, we didn't even hear that until now." "That's because of her quirk, sonar," Itsuka said in a whisper. "She can hear things better than, well, almost everyone else." As soon as Katsuki saw Rikai, he yelled, "You old hag." Tenya told Rikai, "That's not polite," but Rikai raised her cane. I let people call me that," Rikai said. "But boy, do you want me to kick your ass again? You remember what happened last time." Katsuki, surprisingly, didn't answer. He just muttered something under his breath. "I know I heard Itsuka's voice around here now that he's quiet," Rikai told her. "Grandmaster Rikai, it's good to see you again in good health," Itsuka said. He, so it is you," Rikai said. "Come to see me again, or is it Izuku you wanted to see more?" Itsuka said, "Both," and her whole face turned red. Maybe it was good or bad for her that Izuku didn't hear that because he was busy with Katsuki pushing him and challenging him again. "Okay, everyone can come up to my dojo," Rikai said as she turned back up the stairs. And not to be rude, Momo asked Kendo-san, "Is she?" She stopped short because she didn't want to be rude. 1. Just call me Itsuka, Itsuka said. And 2, she's blind. It's okay, she doesn't mind. Wow. Ochako said, she's like a kick-ass blind martial arts master in those movies. Rikai yelled from the stairs, he. I like her. This made Ochako blush. She didn't think that many people would be able to hear her. On their way into the dojo, Rikai threw 2 shirts and wushu pants to Izuku and Katsuki right away. "You two go change. Izuku, take him to battle site 2 when you're both done changing." It was hard for Izuku to say, but as Katsuki smiled meanly. "Just fight him," Rikai said. "He's obviously not going to let this up. Do you really want him to keep chasing you all summer long?" he'll give everyone the impression that you two are lovers. The girls' faces turned red as they were mad that Izuku was taken and had mixed yaoi moment thoughts at the same time. Izuku and Katsuki's faces turned pale. I really don't think that would be the case, Tenya said, trying to get things back in order. She growled, fuck you, this is your fault. Izuku snapped back, me? You're the one who keeps chasing me when I say no. They gave each other a mean look for a moment before making their way to the changing room. Itsuka asked gently, Master, why are you letting this happen? Because it's the best way to confront this, Rikai said, motioning them to follow her. I can tell that Katsuki boy really just wants to be the best. Izuku has admired him when he was young, but things change. Izuku doesn't hate him, per se, just dislikes a bit. At the same time, he respects him still. What he truly wants is respect back. This fight may be enough to push them to become friends and rivals, to help push each other to become better heroes. Wait, that means student wants to be a hero? Tenya asked in shock. With a personality like that, it's hard to see, Momo said. Especially if what Itsuka says is true and that he's a bully. It seems like they were meant to compete with each other, Ochako cheered. Itsuka said, I'd rather just hit him, but he bowed in response to Rekai's words. Rikai said, here we are, as they got to a flat dirt stage. When did you get this? Wait, didn't this used to have trees? Itsuka yelled in shock. Oh, some students were playing around with their quirks, and one of them set fire to some trees, Rikai said with a shrug. Trees burn well. The rest caught fire soon after. Because they were bad, they all had to cut down the trees and set up this stage. Free labor gives me a new place to spar. Momo, Ochako, and Tenya all thought, you're cruel. Though they were facing each other on the sparring arena, Katsuki couldn't help but stare at Izuku. Okay, Rikai said from her seat while sipping tea, I'll let quirks happen in this match. No lethal blows. You all have to stop when I say so, or I'll kick your ass. You lose if you get kicked outside the lines and touch the ground. You'll be fine as long as you can get back in while over the line and not leaving the ground. I'm sorry, but how can you tell if they're going too far when you can't see? Tenya asked. Rikai replied, I can hear them fine. I can hear you moving your arms every time you talk. I can even tell that girl is scratching her left arm right now. Momo was stunned and amazed when Rikai told her that without even taking her eyes off Tenya. Tenya was scratching her left arm, but Momo was still able to hear her. Okay, boys, are you ready? Rikai asked. Brin? Katsuki began, but Rikai didn't pay attention. Go. Jiito? Trailed off Katsuki before having to dodge a punch from Izuku. Asshole, kill yourself. Izuku quickly dodged Katsuki's right hook and judo tossed him to the ground. Katsuki spat and quickly rolled away just as Izuku tried to stomp on his face. With his quirk, Katsuki quickly got back up and flew at Izuku again. He raised his right hand again, but this time it was a feint as he lashed out with a left kick. Izuku saw through it and blocked it with his right hand. Before Katsuki could use his explosions, Izuku stretched out and wrapped his arm around his leg. Izuku threw Katsuki to the ground with a loud yell, making him roll toward the line. He's not allowed, Tenya said, but Katsuki was able to push himself up into the air even though he fell, quickly repositioning himself before using one of his biggest blasts to not only get back in, but also shoulder charge right into Izuku, who didn't have time to react. The bash didn't hurt him, but Katsuki wasn't done yet. Die. Yell. Katsuki yelled as he quickly raised his hands and blew Izuku in the chest again. Oh no, he'll be ring out. I'm scared, Ochako said as Izuku rolled toward the lines. Izuku was able to get back on his feet by stretching both arms back and hitting the ground with them. The attack stopped the momentum, which let him stay in. Damn it, Katsuki growled as he shook his hands to get rid of the tingling. I can't believe I was read that way. Almost every time you get into a fight, you start with a right hook, Izuku said. That's what I know from having seen it. I've always kept a notebook for hero analysis. You were in some of my notes. I know how strong you were and how much you want to be a hero. Be quiet. You're just a damn useless rock in my way. Katsuki yelled as he charged forward, using his explosions to help him move. Izuku waited and tried to jab Katsuki, but Katsuki set off an explosion to change his path and go above Izuku while using it as a smokescreen. He quickly adjusted himself in the air and put one hand toward Izuku and the other over his head, using his quirk on both hands. He lost sight of Izuku all of a sudden, before his explosions could hit the ground. What? Katsuki asked himself as he quickly stood up and looked around. His instincts kicked in, and he raised his left arm just in time to block Izuku's arm swing. Good instincts, Momo said. I thought he was just after me with brute force, but his plan was pretty complicated. He also moved pretty quickly, even when he suddenly missed Izuku and lost sight of him. Do you think you got me? He raised his right hand and yelled, don't get too aw. Izuku hit him in the back of the head with his right arm swing before he could finish. Katsuki had blocked it just past the elbow joint, which let Izuku bend his elbow and wrist in to hit him. When Katsuki clenched his teeth and tried to land an explosive palm strike, Izuku dove under it and elbowed him in the face. Katsuki caught it, but he wasn't ready for Izuku's second attack. Izuku straightened out his elbow, stretched his arm out, and hit him in the face again. Katsuki stumbled back and looked up to see Izuku jumping into the air as if to land a spinning round kick. Katsuki raised his arms to defend himself right away. It was only a feint, though, because Izuku never actually used his right leg to attack. Instead, he landed in front of Katsuki and then snapped his left leg out for a back kick to the stomach. Fuck! Katsuki yelled as he landed back in the middle and quickly got ready again. He looked over and saw Izuku just out of the corner of his eye. He quickly turned to find him but had a hard time doing so. Wait, wasn't that your move? Ghost perplexing steps. Yelled Atsuka, shocked by what Izuku was doing. Wow, he's going so fast, praised Ochako. No, it's not just speed, Momo said. Right, if it were just speed, I'd be faster, Tenya agreed. But it's how rough he's cutting those lines. I can make sharp turns when I need to, but not as often as he does. You might hurt your ankles if you do that, though. As Ochako tried to repeat what Izuku was doing, she asked herself this question as she almost twisted her ankle. You can do it for a few minutes if you work out your ankle and ligaments, Rikai said as she sipped her tea. But I can't do it for that long. But Izuku is lucky because of his quirk. Ah. Itsuka and Momo both put their right hand on top of their left palm, as if understanding it now. That's right. The whole of Izuku is made of rubber. Rubber? Tenya asked, hoping they would explain a little more. Everything in Izuku's body is like rubber, Itsuka explained. Even his skin and bones can stretch easily. That means what would usually cause extreme stress to a muscle, Izuku can do it without any trouble, Momo said. Shitty Deku's made of rubber. Katsuki growled as he took a punch to the shoulder and tried to avoid it as best he could while he thought about what was going on. It was hard to keep up with Izuku because he kept moving. The worst part was that Izuku could punch and kick while being out of range because he had a blind spot. Katsuki made up his mind quickly and ran to a corner of the arena, where he turned around and put his feet down. Asking with interest, Ochako said, isn't he just trapping himself like that? Brat's got good fighting instincts, said Rikai. By putting himself there, he's made it his back and sides are protected. The only way to hit him now is from the front. Katsuki thought, shit, it's still hard to figure out where he is, as Izuku moved closer to him, still using those steps to make sharp cuts. Then I'll just get them all. Katsuki threw a bunch of explosions from his hands, which covered half the stage and trapped Izuku inside. Izuku. Momo and Itsuka yelled in fear. You know, I don't understand why Izuku doesn't use the power he showed back at the entrance exam, Tenya said. You know, the one where he one-shot the 0-point foe villain. Wait, one shot. Itsuka spun around. You guys never mentioned that, though he just fought it until he could beat it. Izuku rushed out of the smoke all of a sudden, parts of his shirt and pants on fire. He had arcs of green lightning going all the way around him, giving him a slight glow. Izuku ran right up to a shocked Katsuki. Katsuki's right arm, which he had left outstretched, suddenly pulled back as Izuku almost hit him in the stomach with an upper. Katsuki was able to block the attack by putting both hands down. The impact sent him flying up and hurt his hands, but Katsuki smiled as he set off a huge explosion when Izuku's fist hit his hand. Got you. Katsuki grins as smoke fills the area. His body is still moving up from the force of both attacks. He put his hands apart and frowned. He swore that some of his bones might have been broken because he could barely feel his hands. He was now ending this. He spread his hands out, ready to speed up and end this with a new move he had just thought of. Getting ready to attack was all he could think about, so he didn't see a leg slam him from the side. Katsuki barely had time to turn around before he landed hard on his left side, protecting his head with his hands. Katsuki yelled, "I'll kill you," as he quickly stood up and saw that his left arm was broken and couldn't move. He wasn't going to give up, though. "That's it," Rikai said. "Izuku wins." He stopped moving when he looked down and saw that he was out of the ring. As he realized he had lost the battle, he started to shake. Izuku, Ochako, Momo, and Itsuka yelled in fear. As the smoke cleared, Izuku said, "I'm fine." The girls suddenly stopped moving, and the redness in their faces turned bright. They could feel blood slowly coming out of their noses. Tenya was scared and yelled, "Midoriya-san, you're naked." Katsuki had burned through most of his clothes in his last attack. It wasn't like the clothes that Rikai gave them were made to be resistant like the clothes that schools that offered heroic courses did. Izuku only had his All Might boxers left, and they were really worn out. They even had holes in the middle. In an instant, Tenya quickly took off his coat and wrapped it around Izuku's waist. Because of the smoke, the girls couldn't get a good look at that area at first, so they started to mentally thank and curse Tenya for what he did. Rikai laughed out loud because she could hear the girls' hearts beating faster. She then sent Izuku to his locker, where he always kept an extra set of clothes, including underwear. Rikai quickly walked over to Katsuki, who was still frozen, and slammed her stick right into her shoulder, dislocating it. Izuku quickly ran away in shame. And Katsuki yelled, "Ah, fuck you, you old hag," as he fell to the ground. "Shut up," Rikai told Katsuki as she gave her a light blow to the head. "I put your shoulder back, didn't I?" Katsuki had to blink before she realized what she had said was true. "You learned quite a bit today, didn't you?" said Rikai. "Did you think with your quirk, you were the strongest? That everybody was just a pebble in your path?" Rikai walked around Katsuki for a while. "I've heard from a few places that you went to some gyms and dojos, taking a few lessons here and there, ever since the sludge villain incident. But did none of them show you just how big the world is?" Rikai let out a sigh. "No surprise there. Must have wanted you to become their poster boy. Sad truth is that you are strong, your battle instincts are top-notch, and you have one of the best quirks out there. However, you're shallow. You've allowed all those praises weaken you. Your judgment's been skewed. What you thought was a pebble is really a mountain. But even great people can trip on pebbles if they're not careful." Katsuki said, but Rikai pushed through. "You've let yourself become conceited. Tell me, before the sludge villain incident, did you ever push yourself, train harder that your whole muscles complained, and yet still charge through? Izuku's been doing that since he came to my dojo, and even more after that incident." Katsuki didn't know how to answer that question. He worked out, but his body wasn't even close to what he saw on Izuku. He has only really pushed himself harder in the last 10 months. "You've never been pushed down before," said Rikai. "Well, now's your chance. You've been pushed down. Are you going to give up?" Katsuki quickly stood up and yelled, "Fuck no, I won't give up being a hero. I may have lost today, but I won't fucking lose again. Even if I do, I'll keep going." While yelling, "I'm going to beat Deku, I'll beat all of you, and show you that I'll be the #1 hero." Katsuki tried to wipe away his tears to look tough, but some were still there. Rikai just smiled and tapped Katsuki on the head. "See that you do. That stubbornness of yours will help you on your path. It would also do you well to have a rival to push you. If Izuku is no longer a pebble, perhaps he can be a whetstone to sharpen yourself." She smiled and thought about it, then changed Izuku from a pebble to a whetstone. But he didn't understand why his teacher would say that. "If you're wondering about why I said that," Rikai said, "it's because I know you'll also sharpen Izuku up. The more you two push each other, the stronger you'll both be. It's a win-win situation. Now go take a shower and change out of your clothes." "Are you okay?" Momo asked worriedly, already using her ability to make a cold pack, anti-burn cream, and bandage wraps. Itsuka and Ochako were busy putting the cream and wraps on Izuku's body, which made Momo a little envious. They were putting their hands on him and moving all over those huge, almost sensual muscles. The thought train stopped for Momo so she wouldn't cut her nose. Itsuka and Ochako had a little blush on as they put the medicine on. For a long time, Itsuka hadn't seen Izuku. The only thing that could show him was the video camera. When she hugged him back for the first time at the entrance exam, she felt some of his muscles being very stiff. It was clear to her how big Izuku had become now that she could see him better. When she put on the burn cream, her hands stayed on it a little longer than they should have. Her jealousy grew as she saw how easy it was for Momo to make things that would help Izuku. Tenya was wondering if there was any damage that would last or make Izuku unable to move. Ochako was too busy admiring Izuku's body. Izuku waved Tenya off again and said, "I'm fine." Tenya then said, "Bakugo knows how to control himself, even though he seems like a loose cannon. He wants to be a hero." Tenya laughed and said, "With that attitude, he'll have a hard time." "Actually, he's already been accepted to UA Heroics," Izuku said. "He and I got called up by the principal of our school to congratulate us both." While Tenya, Ochako, and Momo yelled, "What?" Itsuka just held her nose up with her hands to avoid getting a headache from the thought of going to school with Katsuki. They talked some more, and Izuku mostly tried to reassure his friends that Katsuki wasn't that dangerous. Then they were ready to go to the sushi place Tenya had suggested. Deku. They turned around to see Katsuki coming down the stairs with them. "You won this time, but next time, I'll win," Katsuki said. "I'll kick all your asses." After that note, he walked away. "Well, that was that," Izuku said. "Now let's go eat. I'm starving after that battle." "Yay!" cheered the other people. "So school is over?" Momo asked Tenya as she placed her second sushi order. They were in a nice restaurant with a screen next to them and a conveyor belt that moved food around the room. Since Momo paid for the all-you-can-eat deal the last time, Tenya made him pay for it this time too. "Yes, Bakugo and I were the first ones to tie up at our school," Izuku said. "Given how he acts, it's hard for me to believe that he is that smart," Tenya said as he finished ordering a sushi boat with real wasabi instead of the fake ones made from horseradish, other ingredients, and food coloring. "He is blunt, but he knows how to study," Izuku said. Despite his brash attitude, he always goes to the library during lunch or self-study periods. He studies at home after dinner for an hour despite already finished his homework in the afternoon. The other person asked, "How do you know this?" "Easy. His mom and my mom are best friends," Izuku said. "She sometimes tells me these things. Just because he and I don't get along very well doesn't mean our parents don't. When we talk about moms." The doorbell rang while Inko was humming a song and sweeping the floor with a dustpan. As Inko opened the door and saw Mitsuki Bakugo, she sang, "Coming." Mitsuki smiled as she walked into the hall and said, "Inko, I haven't seen you in a while. You haven't gone to the gym with me. Did you start going less often?" "Oh, sorry," Inko said. "It's just recently we got an exclusive home all-in-one gym set machine. I've been using that instead of heading to the gym for a bit. But I do need to work on some cardio today, so we can go if you want." She smiled and said, A home gym set? Let me see." She walked right into the room where the gym set was kept and stared for 2 minutes. When Inko saw her friend standing there without saying anything, she asked, Mitsuki. "Inko, do you know the average cost of a decent home gym machine like this?" spoke to Mitsuki. "Somewhat expensive, I imagine," said Inko. "Izuku got it from Toshi-chan for helping him out with a few things, as well as reparation for an incident. So roughly, 200,000 yen? "Yes, but that's not your average one," said Mitsuki as she carefully looked at the machine. "This is one of the best and latest brand, approved by All Might himself. Something like this is going to cost around 800,000 yen. And holy shit, I just noticed it, but it's specially made to go beyond the normal sets. And it feels like these strings are made out of stronger stuff than normally used. Same with the materials in these metal bars holding it all up. I'd say this customization together would cost about 1 fucking million yen." "Oh my," said Inko. "I never thought Toshi-chan would spend that much for us." Mitsuki smiled as if she were sneering. "Did I hear a man's name in that? You said his name twice, and with a chan at the end." "It's nothing," Inko said with a blush. Mitsuki shot back, "That's crazy, that's something. Tell me more, girl. So, Inko told Izuku how she met Toshinori Yagi and how he helped her train. How he would sometimes eat with them and stay the night when she asked him to. How they would sometimes have tea together and Izuku would not know. He left with a dreamy smile on his face because she kissed him on the cheek to say thank you. Mitsuki told her straight out, "Ooh, someone likes you." It was clear where Katsuki got his bluntness and tendency to swear from. "I don't know," said Inko. "I thought. I don't know what to think. Toshi-chan is a nice man, though he does look like he could use some meat on his bones. He has this weird giant smile that looks distorted, but at the same time, you can feel a sense of protection and calmness from it. And even though he looks so thin, I once tripped, and he easily caught me with his arms. They felt so safe and warm, as well as muscular, which was confusing to say the least." She smiled and said, "Sounds like you like him too." "Perhaps," Inko thought, "but I need to take care of Izuku." "That shouldn't stop you from finding someone," said Mitsuki gently. "I know your time with Hisashi was bittersweet, but that's in the past. If this guy makes you happy, then go for it. I'm sure Izuku will understand." This time Mitsuki's smile turned mean again. "Plus, if this Toshinori guy doesn't show some respect, you can always use that technique I taught you. It's the woman's secret technique, ballbuster." Before they talked about some rumors, both women fell into a heap of laughter. A chill went up Toshinori Yagi's spine while he was drinking tea. He didn't want to know what caused it, and he didn't know it. He chose to focus on some paperwork to finish up his classes instead, taking a quick look at his phone. In the background were himself when he was really skinny, Izuku, and Inko. When he saw it, his heart beat quickly, and he spat out blood again. He had to pay attention. But on the bright side, he was thinking about getting a stomach or lung transplant now that he had told everyone about his quirk. Or growing them back if you can. But he had heard that things like that might happen in the medical field. He would have to ask Recovery Girl for more information. He didn't do it earlier because he didn't want the chance of one for all to be found out. The people with Izuku ate the sushi boat and kept asking for more. One of the chefs, a man with 8 hands, was trying his best to prepare all the food. Ochako quickly got used to being able to order so much and chose her favorite fish sushi. As a useful person, Izuku refilled their water cups. He only had to reach across and touch the water dispenser across from him. Since Momo and Tenya had been to restaurants like this before, they helped us choose which kinds of sushi to try. The girls asked Itsuka to do all the shopping for them. Soon, they left the restaurant, feeling happy and satisfied. Itsuku asked, "So when do we get to know our classroom?" "According to the website, it should be a couple of days before UA officially starts," said Momo. "I hope we're all in the same class," Ochako said. "Even if we aren't, we should have some heroics classes together," Izuku thought. "Well, even if we don't get the same classroom, we can still hang out during lunch and after school," said Itsuka. "Plus, we can have even more people to hang out with. Our homework and subjects can't be that different either." Tenya said, "We should hang out more before school starts again." "That'd be fun," Ochako said, "though I'll be heading back to my parents' place to live for a bit before coming back here again." "Tell your parents that I'd be fine with you living with me," reminded Momo. "Living alone at my place gets lonely, even if there are servants and maids that live there every now and then." "Sure," Ochako replied. As the weeks went by, they hung out whenever they had time. Izuku would be with all of them sometimes. At other times, he was by himself with Tenya or any of the girls. But soon, they got their schoolwork and were ready to take the first step toward becoming heroes. As Izuku was getting ready for the first day of school at UA, Inko asked, "Izuku, do you have everything you need?" "Yes, Mom, I have everything," Izuku said as he put on his shoes. "I made sure of it again this morning after making sure last night." Inko called out to him again as he opened the door. "Izuku," said Inko gently, "I'm proud of you. You look so cool now. Go out and show them all what you can do." "Of course," Izuku said with a smile and a small laugh, "I'm off." Before leaving for his new school, he waved goodbye and shut the door behind him. "Don't think I didn't notice you with 3 girls," Inko laughed when she was sure Izuku was gone. "Once I'm done, you'll have them all plus more. That means more grandchildren to play with." Izuku didn't know what gave him a chill, but he chose to ignore it. He wore his new gray uniform, which included a red tie, black pants, and his usual red sneakers. After running quickly to the bus stop, he met Momo and Ochako right away. "Morning," was said to Izuku, and the other two replied. Ochako, who was a little shaking, said, "I'm so excited. It's time for us to take our first steps toward becoming heroes." She agreed, "Yes, it is pretty exciting." The bus got there quickly and took them to the stop closest to UA. From there, they walked the rest of the way and stopped at the front door. Tenya greeted him with salutations and crooked his hands in the air. "A fine morning for us to be able to take the first step into UA." Itsuka was excited and said, Yeah, let's show our homework." They were all told about their homerooms by email, but they didn't tell anyone because they wanted to do it all at once. Itsuka held up a piece of paper with her homework on it and asked, "All right, ready?" Izuku, Tenya, Momo, and Ochako all did the same thing. "All right, on 3, 1, 2, 3. At the third count, they all gave it to each other. "Ah, am I the only one at 1B? Itsuka pouted, adding, "Talk about unfortunate." "It's all right, we can still have lunch together," said Izuku. "And our assignments should be similar to each other that we can study together." Izuku had to give Itsuka a hug when he saw her pout and give him puppy eyes. He and Tenya didn't know that Itsuka gave a victory sign to Momo and Ochako, who were angry. There was no way they could take it back because she was going to be in a different classroom. "We should get to our respective classrooms," said Tenya. "It would not bode well of us to be late to the first day of class." The other kids agreed, and they quickly went into the school building. Tenya had the school map out for them. They quickly found their classrooms, which were on the top floor of the building and were next to each other. This was their last goodbye to Itsuka. Izuku, Momo, Ochako, and Tenya then went into their new classroom. As more and more students came in, the class slowly became full. That was a lot better than before. When Izuku showed up, Katsuki gave him the finger, but he didn't say anything as he sat down. Also, the glare didn't feel as mean and more like a rival. Izuku had something to think about. "So you are here, Jero," a voice said. When Izuku turned around, she saw Tsuyu Asui standing there in her uniform. Izuku said, "Ah, Asui-san. Call me Su-chan," Tsuyu said. "That sounds better to me." "Okay," Izuku said, "but please call me by my first name." He then quickly introduced Tsuyu to everyone and told them how they met. "Too noisy," a voice from the door said, making all the students stop and look at the source close to the door. That's where they saw what looked like a big yellow caterpillar crawling on the ground. When it turned around, it showed the face of a shaggy man. The man took a juice pouch out of his sleeping bag and said, "If you're here to hang out with other people, then leave." Then he drained the juice box all the way through on Epic Suck. This is the hero course. What the hell is that? Most of the students thought this in silence as the man got out of his sleeping bag. Someone named Aizawa Shota looked around the class and then spoke. 8 seconds. That's how long it took you all to calm down. Time is limited, and you kids aren't smart enough. My name is Aizawa Shota, and I'm your homeroom teacher. Most people were shocked and blinked, but Izuku's eyes got really narrow. Even though he knew a lot about most pro heroes and could recognize most of them at a glance, this pro wasn't one of them. In other words, he didn't even know who he was from the top of his head. Shota took a gym uniform out of his sleeping bag and said, "Now, this might be sudden, but put this on and go to the field." "Where did you put that in there, and why?" It was what most of the students thought. Shota's phone started to ring before anyone could move. It was singing, "Am I a dog? A bear? A mouse? But most importantly, I'm the principal of UA. My name is Nezu." Shota was going to ignore it. Shota picked up the phone right away, cursing in his head that the principal could hack into the school phones and make everyone have that ringtone when he called. Nezu asked Aizawa-kun, "Please don't tell me you forgot about our little deal for letting you take young Shinso into the reserved ranking." Shota suddenly got cold. Shota said in a whisper, "No, I'm taking them to the entrance ceremony right now." "Oh good. One would think you might have forgotten and just take them straight to the Quirk apprehension test so you could expel whomever you deemed unworthy just to make room or lower your own paperwork," said Nezu as he sipped his tea. No, of course not," shook Shota. "Though once they're done with it, I'm having them do it right after." "Of course, as you are allowed to do so," said Nezu. Well then, go ahead and bring them here. Sekijiro-san has already confirmed with me he is ready to bring his class over. And I have already sent a teacher to fetch Shinso-san. Nezu hung up the phone after that note. Change of plans, said Shota. Just bring your gym uniforms with you. They should be located in your desk. Everyone should have been assigned a seat, so just grab it and go. We'll pass by the locker rooms on the way so you can put them in there. A few minutes later, they were all in a gym that was mostly used by general ed students. There were only 41 of them in total. Itsuka and Izuku were able to find each other and sit next to each other. Momo, Ochako, and Tenya were sitting to his right. The line that split Class 1A from Class 1B was between Itsuka and Izuku. At the same time, they were both interested in Hitoshi Shinso, who wasn't in any of the classes. Hello students. Nezu said as he came to the podium. And welcome to UA High. You are the few selected students who have been chosen to attend the heroics course. Take pride in yourself, as you have managed to take the first step. Nezu told the students with a smile, but be careful, since this is a freestyle school, the teachers can also do whatever they think is best. Nezu leaned forward in a scary way, which made a few students gasp. Nonetheless, I do hope you all apply yourselves and become outstanding heroes. At this junction of time, we will have Miss Kayama hand out your welcome gifts. Mr. Yamada has decided to be your personal musical background director. While putting on some beats, Present Mike yelled, "Aw yeah, putting on some sick background beats." Present Mike, please wait until I'm completely done, Nezu said, making Present Mike lower the volume. Anyways, please refer to your packet for any questions, and if you need any clarification, please do ask. As you all know, all the teachers here are also pro-heroes who have devoted some of their time to guiding the youth. And some of them look delicious, Midnight, the R-rated hero, said, making a lot of boys move around in their seats. You may have noticed that the Foundation Hero teacher's picture is curiously absent from the orientation packet you all received, Nezu said, ignoring Midnight for now. Well, it wouldn't bode well to ruin the surprise. Now, I imagine you're all wondering why there are 41 of you here, instead of 40. Most of the students nodded and looked at Shinso, who was moving around awkwardly. That's because that student you're all rudely staring at will be the 41st student of the Department of Heroics, Nezu said, which caused most of them to snap their eyes at Nezu. Hitoshi Shinso will be tested to see if he will deserve to be put into the reserve ranking, fall short and be put back to general studies, or perhaps even replace one of you should you fail to meet standards. The students took a deep breath and stood up a little straighter. Izuku and his friends did the same, but Tenya was already so stiff that he couldn't sit up any straighter. We will be making a few changes in this year's courses, so don't rely on the knowledge of your upperclassmates' information. Nonetheless, welcome to UA High Heroics course. Nezu wrapped up. The rest of orientation went smoothly. Midnight gave out the gifts and said a few things while licking her lips and looking at the students like they were prey. There were a lot of rises in some pants that were only known to the owner. Shota took Hitoshi Shinso with him when he sent his students out to work in the fields right away. As the group split up, Itsuka looked back at Izuku. Her teacher was taking them to see the guidance counselor. A woman with green hair named Setsuna Tokage asked, "Who is that boy? He looks cute." "That's my childhood friend Izuku," Itsuka said without much thought, giving Momo and Ochako, who were standing next to him when they left, a slight glare. She saw another girl who looked like she was following them. She was pale and had black hair cut into a bob. "The boy you keep talking about?" she asked. "The one you want to jump so badly?" Yui said this with a blank look on her face. Itsuka was embarrassed and hissed, "Yui." Setsuna poked Ituska and said, What? I want to know more." One of Reiko Yanagi's gray hairs covered one of her eyes, and she also seemed interested. "Please be quiet," Vlad King told the girls, and they did. "Now, here is. If you were Toshinori Yagi, you would be their foundational heroic studies teacher." He was in the faculty room going over the files of every student in Class 1A and 1B for the most part. The upperclassmen were interning at different hero agencies. However, all of them had another teacher to keep their own job. He would pay more attention to the new students and his replacement. Toshinori took a quick look at who would be his homeroom teacher while talking about the new teacher. Toshinori's headache started to hurt as he rubbed his nose in anger and said, 1A has Aizawa-kun. They're going to be in for a surprise. A second later, he looked sad. I hope he doesn't force young Midoriya to use one for all. Well, with Midoriya's imagination, I'm sure he can make something up to cover that up. He had, in fact, told Izuku about one for all and where it came from, all for one. It was pretty much bound to happen since Izuku did talk to the survivors of One for All and the first user had brought him up. They had Gran Torino with them, and he talked about the history of both One for All and All for One. He also helped train Izuku. Toshinori was scared as he thought about that because it made him remember his training with Gran Torino. All of the 1A plus Shinso students were wearing gym clothes and walking toward the field. Hey, I remember you, Ochako told Shinso. You helped stop that fight with that jerk skinhead. Oh, it's you, Shinso announced. Thanks for stopping him from being a bigger jerk with just words, Ochako said. I'm Ochako Uraraka. Stop the fight, Izuku asked happily. Indeed, he did so, Tenya said. The student that you saved started insulting you. I reprimanded him for such behavior, and he threatened with violence. It was thanks to Shinso that no violence occurred. Though curiously, how did you do so? And how come you were in reserve ranking? That is something quite new. Shinso winced at the question, but in the end he chose to answer it to get it over with. Ochako didn't seem to want to change his mind. My quirk is brainwashing. If someone responds to me, I can control them, though it is slightly limited. Shinso was already getting ready for the usual answers he had heard from his peers his whole life. Oh, how bad it was. How bad it was. Tenya began to wave his arm, and he saw Ochako already taking a deep breath. Izuku yelled, "That's awesome," with a few sparkles in his eyes. Shinso had to blink a few times before he could understand what Izuku was saying. He couldn't help but ask, "Say wa?" Your quirk would be very useful in rescue missions or capturing villains, said Momo. You could be a huge help in, say, disaster areas. Victims have a tendency to panic despite people telling them to remain calm. With your quirk, you could easily control the situation and direct them to the safest path. Villains have a tendency to either monologue or just shout a lot, said Izuku. You could easily subdue villains if they aren't paying attention, and bring a halt to destruction. Most heroes have to beware of any collateral damage they might incur. Mount Lady's quirk has gotten her into quite a few trouble before, being unable to shrink in time before hitting a building. Shinso didn't know what to say, so he just quietly agreed. Ah, but you would have had trouble in the practical with your quirk, said Ochako. Does your quirk work on robots? No, Shinso said. That's why I didn't really get a good score on that. It was actually because your homeroom teacher saw the confrontation and was interested in me that I got this reserve ranking thing going for me. They can easily cancel it if I'm not up to par. Tenya waved his arm again and said, I'm sure you'll do well, but you said you know our homeroom teacher. What is he like? They were already on the gym field when Shinso could answer. When Shota said there would be a quirk apprehension test, everyone was confused about what was going on. Huh? What about the meeting with the guidance counselor? Ochako asked after reading the plan. If you're looking to be heroes, you have no time for such leisurely events, said Shota. I would have skipped the entrance ceremony, but Nezu was insistent that I have you all attend that at least. You all know by now that we teachers have the freedom to do whatever we deem necessary. Shota turned around and looked each of them straight in the eye. A few drops of sweat fell to the ground. Aizawa held up his phone to show the standard gym test that didn't allow quirk use. Remember these 8 activities you did in middle school, right? He asked. This country still insists on forbidding quirks when calculating the average of these records, which makes no sense. Of course, the Department of Education is putting this off. Shota looked at all of them and then fixed his attention on Izuku. Midoriya, you got the best grade on the practical exam, right? What was your junior high softball record? 77 meters, Izuku said, making Katsuki growl. He had been training a lot more and was sure he could beat his old record without his quirk, even though his previous record was only 67. Shota threw Izuku a softball and said, Good, now try it with your quirk. Do whatever you need to do, as long as you don't leave this circle. While Aizawa used the app to keep track of the score, Izuku took a quick look at the ball and then turned to look at the field. Before giving a small smile, Izuku seemed to think for a moment. He stomped his feet on the ground, making a few cracks. "I may have said do anything you want, but you better have a good reason for burying your legs in there," she said. Izuku laughed a little and said, "Shi, you'll see." Suddenly, Izuku turned his spine around and twisted his waist all the way around. This made most of his classmates freak out. A man with red spiked hair yelled, "What the hell? That's crazy." Her frog-like face didn't take away from her good looks. In fact, it made her look even cuter. "He's very flexible, Jero," Suya said. A girl with earlobe plugs that were surprisingly long yelled, "Flexible? That's way beyond what anyone should be able to do." The students watched Izuku do what looked like his 25th rotation before he finally stopped, revealing his twisted middle. Before he began to relax, Izuku told them, "You might want to stand back a little further." They all took 3 steps back when they heard what he said, even Shota. It wasn't long before Izuku started to spin and kick up dust as he uncurled his body. His right arm kept getting longer. "What in the world?" asked a kid with blonde hair and a black lightning bolt in his side hair. Someone with a bird head coughed, "He's spinning so fast that he can make dust." Izuku was on his last coil when all of a sudden, green lightning arcs danced around his body. Not many people could see it, though. Shota rubbed his eyes together and pulled down his goggles to protect them. He could smell burned ozone. Izuku yelled, "Smash!" as he threw the softball. He chose to use one for all at 55%, which was the highest output he could control at the moment besides speed. He could go higher, but 55% was the most he could handle right now because as the output went up, the chances of misfiring went up, too. With such a wide field, it would be hard for him to throw it into a building. Even so, he wasn't taking a chance. As the ball shot up into the sky, a shockwave moved the air around. When everything calmed down, the students could only blink and look at Izuku in shock. He blinked and looked down at his phone when it told him the results. 1749.7 MTs. Shota thought to himself, not bad. He then turned to the crowd and said, "It's important for us to know our limits. This is the most logical way to build a hero." "Really? 1749.7 meters? Asked the same kid with blonde hair. "Wow. That lightning around Izuku's body made me think he was hiding something, but I didn't think he was that strong," Momo thought, remembering that the others had told her Izuku had destroyed a huge fake villain. "Did he unlock it after he met me?" she asked. It wasn't a surprise to Tenya or Ochako because they had seen Izuku use this before. Izuku looked really cool right now, Ochako thought. Another student with pink skin, hair, and horns said, "We get to use our quirks for this. Sounds fun." It looked like most of the students agreed with what she said. In the end, Izuku knew who Aizawa Shota was by the goggles he was wearing to block out the dust. No one else could say anything. "Ah, you're the Erasure hero. Eraserhead," said Izuku, "you specialize villain capture, and can erase quirks with your quirk just by looking at them." One student said in a whisper, "Eraserhead? Never heard of him." "He's an underground hero," a friend said. "He doesn't like to come out on TV much." Even though Shota had never been on TV and mostly worked at night, he was slightly pleased that someone recognized him. "Faye," he laughed as he took off his goggles. "Fun, you say? Were you planning to spend your 3 years here having fun while trying to become a hero?" Shota started to grin maniacally and say, "Fine then. Let's make this a game. Whoever comes in last place on all these tests will be judged hopeless, and the punishment game will be expulsion." Most of the students stopped talking at this point. Most of the students yelled, "Eh," as Shota slowly glared at them all and locked eyes on Shinso. Shota's nod made the message much clearer, and Shinso took a deep breath. He wouldn't be safe from this even though he was a reserve rank. "We're free to do whatever we want with our students' situations," Shota glared as he pushed his bangs off his forehead and made a rude face. "Welcome to UA High Heroics course." A lot of the students looked scared at first before gritting their teeth and being determined. Some of them had expressions that didn't change. Katsuki looked like she was happy. The student who was the shortest and had big grape-shaped balls on his head was one of the few who didn't feel the same way. People might think the student was shocked at first glance because he didn't have a face or that he was very calm. It turned out that the boy was just daydreaming. In other words, what was his dream? "I want to teach here," I can't wait to see what I can do with that much power, the boy thought. He could already picture himself sitting on a throne and being served by high school girls dressed in bloomers and other things. Suya hit him on the head right away because he knew what he was thinking. Before Ochako raised her voice, she remembered what Principal Nezu had told them all. If you were hoping to hang out at the local McDonald's after school, then too bad, said Shota. It's a hero's job to restore order without fail or rest. The next 3 years here will be full of tribulations, one after another. Go beyond and plus ultra. I expect you all to overcome this. As the students got ready, they all had determined looks on their faces. First test. 50-meter dash. Shota started calling 2 students at a time to the starting line, going from worst to best. In turn, this helped people know who they were when they got to the starting line. Mina Ishido, the girl with pink skin, and Yuga Aoyama, the boy with blonde hair and a rather big belt, were the first ones to go. Izuku knew him from the entrance exam. He was one of the students he saved by taking the robot's attention away from the test. Yugam, who spoke with a French accent, bragged, "Let me show you all how beautiful my naval laser is and how creative I can be." While Mina got ready, he turned around so that his back was to the track. Yega jumped into the air as soon as the robot said, "Start." As Yuga fired a laser beam from his navel, Mina could not keep up with him. Like this, he laughed. Yuga stopped using it, though, 1 second after using it, letting his momentum carry him before he hit the ground. His quirk acid made him quickly get back up after Mina had already passed him. She took off her shoes so she could shoot acid from her feet, which she did as she skated along the track. After falling, Yuga got back up and pushed himself to the finish line again, but not before Mina won with a record time of 5.25 seconds and Yuga a time of 5.51 seconds. Yuga spoke with stars flashing around him while people looked at him blankly. "If I use my naval laser for more than 1 second, I get a stomachache," he said. "Nice job, Mina," the student with the wild red hair said. Mina gave him a high five and said, "Thanks. You better do a good job too. Don't be your old self in middle school anymore, okay?" Tenya Iida and Suyu Asui were the second pair to leave. Given that it was a speed contest, Tenya ran across the finish line in 3.04 seconds, while Suyu, whose speed isn't great, hopped across the line in 5.58 seconds. "Looking good," Izuku told Suyu and Tenya as they came back into the group. "If only it was longer," Tenya said. "I could only change up to 3rd gear with this much room." "Kiro, I doubt anyone will be beating your time," Suyu said. Ochako Uraraka and Mashirao Ojiro were the 3rd pair to play. Ochako started using her quirk right away to make her shoes and clothes look brighter. Mashirao jumped forward with his strong tail as soon as the race began. He ran when he landed and then jumped forward again with a strong whack of his tail, getting a time of 5.49 seconds. Ochako's new time was 7.15 seconds, which is 0.11 seconds faster than her old time. Denki Kaminari, Eijiro Kirishima, Koji Koda, Rikido Sato, Mezzo Shoji, Kyoka Jiro, Honta Siro, and Fumikage Tokiyami were the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th pairs to go up. Their times ranged from 5.20 to 7.18 seconds. The students would be amazed at Tenya's speed until the 8th pair. Shoto Todoroki, a man with a strange appearance that would make many women swoon, and Toru Hagakuri, the invisible girl, were both awake. When the horn blew, Shoto blasted himself forward with an ice pillar he had made. He built an ice slide as he went down, which let him slide across the finish line in 3.15 seconds. Toru showed how fit she was by crossing the finish line in 6.24 seconds, even though she didn't have a quirk that could help her go faster. These people could only really tell she crossed the line because she was dressed. It was finally Izuku and Katsuki's turn. They looked at each other for a moment before getting into place. Katsuki yelled, "Explosive Turbo," as he sped forward with explosions, getting a time of 3.95 seconds. But Izuku stepped in front of them and threw his arms out in front of him, grabbing the ground as he did so. He then threw himself forward all at once. 2.95 seconds, the robot recorder said. Eijiro said, "Damn, he's strong and fast. That's manly." Shoto narrowed his eyes at Izuku and then noticed that his left hand was on fire. He crossed his arms quickly, which made steam come out of them. Watch out for Izuku Midoriya, Shoto told himself. Momo showed them all that she wasn't going to be beat by putting rollerblades and a powerful fan on her back to help her cross the finish line faster, which she did in 3.02 seconds. Mineta Minoru, who was short and had a strange mind, used his oddity to his advantage by holding 4 balls in each hand and throwing them in a line in front of him. He jumped forward as fast as he could and threw even more down the lane as he jumped on each one. His time of 7.21 seconds was the worst of all of them. Because of his size, it was pretty bad luck. Shinso was the last one to be by himself. His goal was to beat the time of 7.02 seconds, but he only hit it. She cursed the fact that his quirk couldn't help him, but she couldn't say anything. He knew he wasn't good enough, even after that hellish training period. Even though she could not be seen, Toru was still faster than him. People seeing him as a bad guy for so many years had made him change a bit. Part 2. The grip test. It was time for the grip test, and they were all walking to the gym. Shinso was walking next to Izuku. Shinso said in a low voice, "Must be lucky to have such a cool and useful quirk to use on these tests." He thought no one could hear him. Izuku did hear him, though, as he turned to face him. Izuku frowned and thought back to the time when he didn't have any quirks. "Hey, you have a useful quirk yourself," he said. There was a lot of pain and suffering in that time before Katsuki shoved that fruit down his throat. That being said, he had to make time to thank him for that. "Well, it's not helping me with these tests," Shinso said. "I can't brainwash others not do their best." Before he could figure out what to do, Izuku closed his eyes and thought about the problem. Izuku asked, "Well, is it possible to brainwash yourself?" He was about to say that the question was silly when he changed his mind. He had never really done it, and there was no reason for him to. "Hear me out, you know about those feats from the past before quirks came out," said Izuku. "How a mother lifted a car by herself to rescue her child. And how the body naturally uses only up to 80 to 90% of your body's true power unless you're either running on adrenaline or hysterical strength. Use your quirk and tell your body to remove those safety limits. Though don't go too far off, or you might hurt yourself." He was shocked by Izuku's analysis. He had never thought of doing that himself. Shota gave everyone the grip test machine and told them to all do it at once to save time before he could ask for more information. He took a quick look at the grip machine and then squished his hands together as hard as he could. After seeing that he had only lost 50 kilograms, Shinso chose to try Izuku's idea. Shinso said to himself, "You can do better," and then he said, "Yes," to himself again. Even though he felt a little stupid, he felt like he was dazed when something suddenly washed over him. He stared off into the distance with his eyes looking blank. Shinso thought to himself, "So this is how other people feel about my quirk. Okay. How can I tell myself what to do when I can't talk? Do I tell myself in my head to grip harder?" When he thought of that, his body did what he told it to do and gripped harder than he thought he could. The odd thing he did stopped when he felt a sharp pain that woke him up. When he looked down, he saw that his fingers were red, but he smiled when his score went up to 60 kilograms. At the same time, Izuku was wrapping his arm around the grip area over and over, each time making it tighter and raising his score. He finally stopped and grabbed it, earning a score of 720 kilograms. Few people came even close. Shoji with 640 kilograms, Sato with 580 kilograms after eating sugar, and Momo, who made an industrial-grade clamp to get 700 kilograms. Third test. Long jump. While standing, Izuku saw the students try to use their unique skills to help them do this, going 2 at a time again. For now, Aoyama and Tsuyu were the only ones who had done better than the other students. Even though he was interested in Koji Koda, who had called in a flock of birds for him to ride on and move forward. Tenya was using his engine to move forward, and Izuku saw him almost clear the sandbox. Ochako just about got it off, but she was almost sick as she did it. Shoto was another one who quickly got away by blasting himself off of another ice column. Momo, who was also waiting for her turn, said, "I think he's the other recommendation student through practical." Of course, it makes sense given who his father is. When Izuku was about to ask who it was, his name was called out. Katsuki was already fired up, so he blew right past the sandbox. On the other hand, Izuku had to ask if he could slingshot himself. "No," said Shota. "You can extend your arm onto the ground after you jump like Zero did with his tape quirk, but not before." Izuku frowned because he was ready to try something new but not use one for all. After a short time, an idea came to him. People were surprised when he suddenly blew up by taking in as much air as he could. He turned his body slowly again, but this time he only did 4 turns. After setting himself up so that his head was facing down, he jumped as high as he could and let out a breath. He quickly let out enough air that the force of it was enough to push him out of the sandbox while he was spiraling forward. With a groan, Shota looked at the ground and saw sand grains all over it. That's going to be a bit of cleanup, he said. Also, Momo cleaned up the sandbox by making springs under her feet and a makeshift glider out of her arms. Unfortunately, Mineta had the worst score. He could only bounce his ball on the first platform and couldn't move forward because he was small. Trail 4. Side jumps that last a long time. Mineta made up for some of his mistakes by putting balls in groups next to him. Because he is short, he was able to easily bounce off of them. While most people felt the strain, Izuku was able to handle it with ease because his body was made of rubber. Not to mention how stressful it had been for him to learn how to use the ghost perplexing step. Tenya showed how creative he was by giving each leg its own set of engines to turn on and off. Test 5. Throw the ball. Izuku didn't have to do it again because he had already done it. He did, however, surprise everyone by coming in 3rd place at this event. Ochako's throw went to infinity, while Momo made a cannon and fired the ball far away, getting a score of 2.8 kilometers. Katsuki got mad when he only cleared a score of 760.2 meters, even though he had been training harder to do better. Trial 6. The endurance race. Even though it might seem simple, Momo beat the competition by making a motor scooter with a solar charger built into it. She was stronger than Izuku, Tenya, Katsuki, and Shoto put together. Mineta was the first to drop out, though. Toru and Shinso came next. Trial 7. Toe touch. While sitting down, Izuku blew Tsuyu out of the water when he showed he could bend all the way down and back up in a full rotation. Tsuyu had a quirk that made her very flexible. While Aoyama was trying to show off, he dropped his belt and pants, which made him look bad. Almost got it, Momo huffed as she leaned forward and put her weight on her legs. Hero course is the best, Mineta said as he looked at Momo. Shota had to slap him to get his attention. 8th test. Sit-ups. As it turned out, this one was mostly physical. No one had any tricks that would have helped them get a higher score, except maybe Shoto, who made a thin layer of ice to keep from sweating. Katsuki gave Izuku a mean look as he went up and down with him. The tests were almost over, and everyone was waiting with bated breath to see how they did. I'll be posting scores up now, said Shota as he played with his phone. The total is the aggregate sum of each of your scores. Reciting them one by one would be a waste of time and energy, so I'll be disclosing them all at once. They were ranked on a hologram that appeared when he tapped his phone. Most people began at the top, but Shinso began at the bottom. 1. The Izuku Midoriya. 2. I'm Momo Yaoyorozu. 3. Ike Shoto Todoroki. 4. Hikaru Katsuki. 5. Hi, Tenya. 6. Tenkaichi Fumikage. 7. O Mezzo Shoji. 8. Mashirao Ojiro. 9. Toshio Kirishima. 10. By Mina Ishido. 11. The Ochako Uraraka. 12. Ike Koda. 13. Nobuhiko Sato. 14. Tsuyu Asui. 15. Yuga Aoyama. 16. Heisiro. 17. The Denki Kaminari. 18. Kyoka Jiro. 19. The Toru Hagakuri. 20. Hideyoshi Shinsa. 21. Fewaru Mineta. Most of them felt sorry for Mineta as his soul seemed to leave his body. Oh yeah, that whole expulsion thing? I lied, Shota said. He continued to explain with a sly grin. It was a rational deception to bring out the upper limits of your quirks. Everyone just stared at him in shock. Mineta yelled, I'm safe, as he fell to the ground. Of course it was a ruse, Momo said. It was obvious if you think about it. I don't know, Izuku said. Didn't Principal Nezu warn us about teachers having the freedom to do whatever they want? Momo blinked and shook a little, hoping that her analysis wasn't wrong. Well then, since you've gotten your results, go ahead and head back to class, said Shota. Your curriculum sheets are back in the classroom on the first desk. Take one and give them a look over. Shinso, come with me. You look like you could use a nurse, and then I'll escort you back to your classroom. I need to talk with the principal anyways. Holy crap, fourth. Fine. Deku got first because that rubber quirk can be used for almost all the events, but how did I lose to Spiky Ponytail Girl and Half and Half? Katsuki thought to himself as the rest of the class started to joke around. He looked over at the two people who beat him and saw that Momo was talking to Izuku while Shoto stood alone, his eyes narrowing at Izuku. Stupid, she thought, don't fucking look down on me. Shota looked at Shinso's red sores on his hands and asked, how did you get those? He thought he had more on his legs because Shinso was walking a little funny. I went over my body's natural limit, Shinso hissed in pain, then went on to talk about how he was able to brainwash himself and use up all of his body's strength at every event. Shota said, that's impressive, you came up with this yourself? No, Shinso said. I never thought I could use it like this until Midoriya, the first-ranked student, suggested it to me. Shota thought about him and made a humming sound. Izuku never showed that other side of his quirk again after the ball throw. He knew that those lightning bolts gave Izuku more power, but he didn't do it again during the rest of the tests. There was no way for him to say he wasn't doing his best and get in trouble. Izuku did make it to the top of the list, and he helped Shinso do even better. He would also have to scold Shoto for not using the fire part of his quirk if he called him out. He already knew all of 1A's quirks because he had read the files. And making them do it again would waste his time, which he didn't want to use. Shota told Shinso to go, but not before reminding him that even though he was now a reserve member, that didn't mean his job was safe. Some of the Foundation hero training would happen with Shinso, but not all of it. Then Shota met with All Might and briefly talked with him about how often he was kicked out before leaving. Phew, that was scary, Ochako said as the day came to a close. I was truly fooled by Aizawa-sensei, said Tenya. I even thought, this is the best of the best, and so on. Now I see how the teachers here encourage deception. I'm not too sure if he was just joking, Izuku said. Something tells me that he wasn't, and just decided on a whim whether or not to expel the lowest score. I'm afraid Izuku is right, Momo said, looking up from her new pair cell phone. I was looking up expulsions from UA and Aizawa-sensei's name appeared in a lot of them. With a click, she showed a screen from her phone of people complaining about being kicked out of UA, and most of them were complaining about Shota. She scrolled down and saw that a whole group of students had been kicked out. She then tried to get the principal to let them back in and kick out Shota. That case didn't work. It was a big shock to Ochako that they had a strict teacher. Do all teachers have this much power? Well, we'll get through it if we do our best and show them all no reason to kick us out, Izuku said. Yes. The other three cheered. Hey, how long did you wait? Asked Itsuka as she walked into the group with Yui and Setsuna. She quickly introduced them to the other people and they started talking right away. By the way, who were the pupils in your class who got recommendations? That's what Momo asked Itsuka. Juzo Honanuki via academic and Setsuna got the practical one, said Itsuka. Impressive, Momo told Setsuna. No, I was lucky, smiled Setsuna. It was supposed to go to someone else, but all of a sudden that person turned down the recommendation, leaving it to me. Why would someone turn down such a well-known recommendation? Tenya was shocked and asked. Maybe he couldn't make it because of a personal crisis, Yui said with a straight face as usual. I don't think it's that sad, Tenya yelled and waved his hand around in a chopping motion. Whatever, Setsuna said. Let's stop talking about this sad subject. For our first day, anyone want to go to the closest McDonald's? The students in 1A shivered at that sentence, which made the three girls feel lost until Izuku could explain what had happened on their first day. It sounds like your teacher is pretty strict, Setsuna said with a pout. Our homeroom teacher is Sekijiro-kan. Hero named the Blood Hero. Vlad King. He's a lot of fun, but he's also a bit stiff and strict. They had to take different buses, and some had to take an extra subway station. When they got to the bus station, they had to say goodbye because they had to catch different buses. Tenya could have run all the way home, but he didn't because heroes were exempt from the rules and he wasn't one yet. Do you think tomorrow will have anything interesting happen? What's up? Izuku asked as he got on the bus with Momo, Ochako, and Katsuki. Katsuki was sitting in the back, far away from them. Perhaps we'll finally find out who the Foundation hero teacher is, This is what Ochako said. Izuku smiled to himself and said, "Oh, I think I already know who it is." Momo said, "Whoever it is, they must be one of the best pros in Japan. At least someone in the top 20s. Maybe the best genist. In his spare time, he's been known to help teach or train other heroes. When we talk about working out, do you guys go to a gym?" asked Izuku. "Actually, does UA have a gym for us to use? All students who are in the heroics course have free access to select gyms outside of school," explained Momo. "UA has the most contacts in the eastern part of Japan, while Shinketsu dominates the western part. Though most choose to use the one in here already." Katsuki perked up on this, already planning to see if the local gym near his place was one. "Ah, makes sense," nodded Izuku, though he had the home gym set at his house already. "Did you two want to jog together sometime? I usually take morning jogs every day to wake myself up at Dagoba Beach. There's a bathhouse nearby, or if you want, you can head to my place to take a shower and change clothes." "That sounds like a good idea," nodded Momo. "Ehehe, I have trouble getting up in the morning," blushed Ochako. "Don't worry, I'll be sure to wake you up," placated Momo. "A morning jog on the beach sounds like an excellent way to wake up and exercise. We must push ourselves to show our worth as upcoming heroes." They soon arrived at their stop, where Izuku walked Momo and Ochako to their home residence before jogging back to his own home. On the way back, though, he saw Katsuki leaning on a pole waiting for him. "What do you want?" asked Izuku. "You didn't use that secondary part of your quirk," accused Katsuki. Before Izuku could defend himself, Katsuki gave a scoff and continued, "Whatever. I'm only here to tell you I'm going to fucking join you in your morning jogs. Can't let you fucking pull ahead of me that easily." At that note, Katsuki turned around and left. "Was that his way of saying we're rivals and that he wants to train with me?" said Izuku as he tilted his head in confusion. "Oh whatever. Need to get back home to work out and fill up my hero analysis notebook." The next morning at 6:30, Izuku was on the beach stretching his legs, wearing green shorts and a green tank top. Next to him was Katsuki, also doing his stretches, wearing black shorts and a black tank top. Both had their gym bags tossed to the side. "Where the fuck are the girls?" growled Katsuki as he leaned back to stretch his spine. "Ah, there you are." Both boys turned to see Ochako in her white shirt and black jogging pants while Momo. Izuku had to stem a nosebleed while Katsuki looked like he just didn't care. Momo had chosen to wear a black sports bra that seemed to enhance her bust as well as short shorts. "Sorry it took so long. Ochako took a little longer to wake up," apologized Momo. "He, sorry, told you I wasn't really a morning person," laughed Ochako nervously. "Alright, let's get this started," laughed Izuku. "If you get tired, don't hesitate to take a breather or stand to the side. I usually jog for an hour straight, mixing it with dashes every now and then. I have markers placed from one end to another, so when we reach it, we turn around. Just go at your own pace." Half an hour later, Ochako had to drop out, panting as she sat on the warm sandy floor while watching the others continue to jog. She reminded herself that she would have to start running more, remembering her own placement in the endurance test. Momo dropped out 20 minutes later, opting to watch and relax, though not as out of breath as Ochako. The two girls began to help each other stretch so as not to get cramps while the boys kept running. The last 10 minutes ended up in sprints as Katsuki and Izuku started to get competitive. They would reach one end, break, turn around at the same moment, and dash off once again. In the end, they ran out of time to keep continuing. "That was a good workout," said Momo as she stretched her arm, unintentionally pushing her chest forward. She smirked as she saw Izuku flushing while Katsuki merely scoffed and looked away. Ochako pouted before turning around and bending down, making sure her own butt was visibly protrude. Her sweat had made her pants stick onto her skin, emphasizing her curve. "Oh look at the time, we should head back to our homes soon to take a shower, change, and get ready for school," shouted Izuku before running away, leaving a trail of sand. Katsuki merely howled in laughter as the two girls glared at each other before breaking into smirks. "So you two want him?" asked Katsuki as he managed to calm down. Both girls whipped their heads and stared at Katsuki. "Hey, I ain't the dense and oblivious one," yawned Katsuki. "Fucking Deku is. If you want to get into his pants, go for it. Got nothing to do with me. I'm pretty sure Side Ponytail also wants him. None of you girls are my type anyway. Momo and Ochako could only stare at Katsuki. It sounded like he was insulting Izuku while also being nice to him at the same time. It was really confusing. Shit, I'm hungry, grumbled Katsuki as he finished off his canteen of water. Catch yaw at school, spiky ponytail and round face. He can never get anyone's name, can he? Sighed Momo as Katsuki left. I don't think I've heard him say anyone's name. It's always by a person's feature. I think Deku is the only one whom he actually calls by a name, even though he makes it an insult, piped Ochako, explaining how Izuku and Deku could be read the same way. Perhaps deep inside Bakugo-san, Izuku is someone that he does still care about, observed Momo. The two girls blinked at this before snickering at this conclusion. Come on, the cook should be preparing our breakfast by now, said Momo as she pulled Ochako with her. It would be another bright day for school.
So that's it for today. I will continue the story in next part. Till then, bye bye.